All right, so I'm reading the letter of Hernando de Soto, not the book or the expedition. The letter. So I was looking, I'm reading the book in the expedition book, 600 pages, whatever. I'm pretty far into that, about halfway. But the letter actually is in his words translated. So this is actually an even better source, as it should be a first person account. Now, the main thing is, I've done a video pretty much about this before, but if you look here, you see the Lake of Miami, and it's also called Miami because it was very large. So he's talking about a district or an area of a country full of skilled and brave Indians, too. Let me toss that in there. Indians in the language which they signify as fierce people, also known as being brave, skilled at war, and all that other stuff. But they were in Miami, okay? But when you come down here, you also get where it says the martyrs in near a village of the Indians called Tequesta. And the Tequesta Indians, I have been referencing this in a map because some archaeologists in a video I'm about to show you referenced it as well. And I also referenced it in De Soto's map. So now here I have it in De Soto's letter as well. Let me show you the video.
When the developer decided that they wanted to build this multi-use building on the site, right, they first of all had to remove a pre-existing structure. And it was well known in the archaeological community that beneath that building there was likely to be some kind of archaeological material. How much, we didn't know until that building was removed. It very quickly became clear that the depth and the horizontal extent and the significance of the archaeological site there was more. To put that in context, this site is older than the pyramids in Egypt. The site is older, or as old, as some of the very first cities ever built in Mesopotamia. And yet, very little is known comparatively about these people who built this site, who lived there hundreds and thousands of years ago, precisely because there hasn't been enough systematic scientific archaeological work done at the site. One of the tensions throughout this
store, people would be like, oh, they're just building a background hotel. It would be a very small portion of the people in Miami that knew what was going on.
The dig site is the remains of the Tequesta capital that was at the mouth of the Miami River. And the Tequesta lived along the mouth of the Miami River where it meets Biscayne Bay for thousands of years, well before they were probably even known as the Tequesta, but we do know that name was used by the people who lived there when the Spanish arrived in the 16th century. There's only a couple of historical mentions of the Tequesta, so from those we know a tiny little bit about the people. So archaeology has filled in all the other gaps. And unfortunately, because Miami...
We don't need you filling in gaps, okay? You knew a little bit, just tell us about the little bit you know, don't fill in the gaps.
has been built up so much and so early in the history of Florida, we don't really have that much evidence of the Tequesta. Today, the excavation that's going on in downtown is of the capital where most Tequesta people lived, where they traded, where they had ritual and ceremony, where they met visitors from other regions. So it's really our only record of that part of Tequesta life.
Okay, so we hear them referencing the Tequesta Indians. We see it in De Soto's letter, the Tequesta Indians, okay? We talk about where they say is in Miami. They're digging in Miami, downtown. That would give credit even more to this map that people see going around of the Tamaricans, of Tamari, of this being Egypt, Tamari being another whatever. But over here you see the Tequesta province. It's in big because this whole area, Miami's down here, and that's where they're doing the dig. But this whole area was Tequesta province. And this is where he talks about coming upon. And he talks about the Milpa planning system. In this same letter, I already did a video on this, he talks about stumbling upon a fields of maize, beans, and pumpkins, which is a squash. And that system was brought over by the Mayas, or vice versa, because remember, the Maya in Miami, Tequesta province, where you see the maize, beans, and pumpkins, which the Maya grew. Let me show you.
Now what you're looking at here is you're looking at a milpa, or a special maize field of the Maya, in a house I rented in the town of Copan. It's not like cornfields in Iowa. When the Maya farmer plants his corn, he plants 3 to 5 grains of corn, in a hole along with the grains of squash. In this case, the Copanecs use ayote squash. Other Maya groups and other peoples use different squashes. What happens is the squash grows out laterally and preserves moisture in the ground while the corn grows up. Into the same hole also goes the seeds of beans.
Which is what you see here: beans, corn, and pumpkins, which is a squash. For those who don't know, yes, it's a squash. And you have these mile marker signs all over the United States in the South where they talk about DeSoto being here when the mound builders were here. The development of the builders, the advance, some about the mound builders in here. Where is it at? Oh yeah, surrounding the mounds. So this lets you know that the mound builders were here. Archaeologists have been digging. And what did they do with all that stuff? What are they doing with the stuff that they found at that 4,000-year-old site? I'll show you.
So the materials that are excavated, they're obliged to save, but they are not necessarily obliged to do analysis on. By law, they have to recover the materials and produce a very preliminary report of what they found, how many boxes of this, how much of that. But the kind of study that archaeologists do now, where we emphasize, squeezing every last bit of data out of the pottery sherds and bones that we find, may or may not happen because it's not actually obliged. If Related wants to do the right thing and actually help the community learn about the settlement of Tequesta, they'll partner with archaeologists to do that kind of work.
My real fear here is that over the past several decades, bits and pieces of this bigger Granada site that sat at the mouth of the Mayan River, or the Tequesta site, have been lost to development. A little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit here. And at some point, there won't be anything left. We are rapidly approaching our final opportunities to systematically recover and then study materials that documented the lives of these people that lived there centuries and millennia ago.
And the reason why we say the thing with Maya and the connection is because she was studying the milpa planting amongst the amongst the Maya in this region. But DeSoto talks about seeing it right here in this region, okay? So it's here and it's there, and it's also something that has to have human intervention. It can't grow in nature by itself, and it is a very, very, very good thing for us to intervene and grow that as it produces more nutrients within the soil. But main thing is, it gives credit to this map, as well as DeSoto, as well as these people, as well as this location, as well as the archaeological digs that they're not even going to give us the information on or tell us what they found or show us. You know what I'm saying? They just got to collect it and all this other stuff. But at least we have some bits and pieces that we can put together to say this was Tamari, this was Tamaricans, these were the original Indians that DeSoto and them described in Tequesta, which is why they drew this map. And people try to discount this map just to be discounting it. But you can't discount his direct letter to the magistrate or whoever or his memoirs, whatever, these letters that he's sending, describing these locations, describing the milpa planting system. Just those two, the milpa planting system, Miami, and goddamn Tequesta, proves this, along with the Maya's existence somehow having a relation between the two. As well as, it's called Miami. Quit playing with us.